Welcome to One Man's Tracks. I hope you're doing well. And today we're jumping into an album that has a bit of a nostalgic pull for me personally. It's an album that came out only about 5 months after I was born, so I'm certain I heard it more than a few times on the radio while I was growing up, as well as I think my parents might even have a copy of this themselves. This is from a group that formed back in New Jersey in the mid 80s while John Popper and Brendan Hill were both still in high school. John was a big SNL fan and actually had aspirations to become a comedian, but he was up on stage performing a Blues Brothers bit, and he discovered his love for performing music on a stage as well as his love for the instrument he's most known for, the harmonica. They originally called themselves simply Blues Band, and in 1987 they'd add guitarist Chan Kinchla and bassist Bobby Sheehan to the mix. That name didn't really succinctly ever kind of sum up their sound, that being a more kind of progressive rock blend of folk, psych, soul, and yes, blues too, but I'm sure we can all agree that the change to Blues Traveler is at the very least a bit of an upgrade. The band was forced to move to New York because their shows kept getting shut down in their hometown in New Jersey for being a little bit too out of control, I guess. Maybe the advertisements of free drugs if you come kind of said the audience a little bit of the wrong message or the right message. Either way, the cops were having none of it, and so they had to build the reputation up in a new city. They actually came up alongside the likes of Joan Osborne. They made the right connections eventually, signed a deal with A&M, and released their self-titled debut in 1990. The following year, they'd release Travelers and Thieves, and they'd be introduced by David Letterman on his show as his favorite band. Just fell down. Whatever. While recording for their third album, John was in a really serious motorcycle accident and was forced to perform the following tour in a wheelchair. This album is where the band strays closest to more of a funk rock sound, and I gotta say I dig it quite a bit, but I have to get into today's album, what many consider to be the crown jewel of their discography, me included. This is their fourth album through A&M Records, released in 1994 and succinctly titled 4 by Blues Traveler. This is where the band truly struck a chord and produced a catchy blend of energetic rock fusion that has an immediacy that most jam bands tend to lack, at least in an album format. It not only scored them their first Billboard hit, but that hit charted for 49 weeks of record at the time and won them a Grammy for Best Rock Vocal. This is easily their most approachable LP, with just building, anthemic, carefree tracks that just feel good to dance around to. I know it's like half the stuff I talk about, but here's another guilty pleasure album that I've tried to stay away from, but just can't do it. Even the band has recently re-recorded 2.0 versions of the hits, so there's no escape for them either. But for now, let's stick with the originals and jump into the definitive Blues Traveler hit single, Runaround. It's pretty light-hearted and up-tempo for an unrequited love song. John's been known to slip in literary references here and there on his songs, and the opening lines for this track come from Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, just swapping out the word dreary for deary. I guess playful is the word I'm looking for here, and with a head-thrown back chorus, this one's just a classic. Bobby leads the groove on the following track, Stand, with this heavy-handed, funky bass line. John's powerful, soulful voice punctuates it, and it's super complimentary on the cool descending chorus line of "'Cause it's a long way to fall." Just a fun little jam they're doing within the song. The instrumental actually opens up after the second verse, and you're hit with this heavenly harmonica solo. Then the instrumental then builds in weight, the tempo increases, and you're hit again with that same one line chorus and that bass to close it all out again. This project kicked off with Run Around, and now we've got Look Around that gives us a bit of a chance to rest with a pretty piano accompanied ballad with a sappy guitar performance from Chan and this droning organ effect layered on the back of it all. The lyrics are a soliloquy that begin with an outwards accusatory statement, but then looks inwards and changes the direction of those statements and reflects and comes out with, it's up to you, the things you throw away. I think it's a good statement and a nice track. There's a terribly generic guitar progression that unfortunately washes over some really awesome harmonica solos on the track Fallible. I just can't help but from the very get-go think of that Simple Minds track that was immortalized on the Breakfast Club soundtrack. John's vocals all over this project are continuously reminding me of big Canadian bands from the 90s and 2000s like Bare Naked Ladies, Great Big Sea, or in this case, Nickelback. Even some cases on future releases, I close my eyes and I can picture Jack Black singing in his place. The Mountains Win Again is the only song written entirely by Sheehan on this album, and ever since his death in 1999, I'm fairly certain the band doesn't perform it, along with a number of other songs he had large contributions to. The song itself is got a message of succumbing to nature, and the subtext here is give in to your feelings, let them flow over you naturally and experience them fully. The underlying tension is great in the verses here. The chorus does have a build, but it doesn't reach that euphoric relief that you know the band is capable of creating. So, unfortunately, it's more of a reflective sigh and makes the song a little bit too easy to forget. Onto a grittier rock number titled Freedom. This one is not quite as in-your-face as Stan, but again, the bass leads the groove here too, providing a foundation for this one to jam out on. Then they pick up the pace as well as the jams, and some more blaring harmonica solos on Crash Burn. Then Price to Pay rolls in. It's a bluesy, folky southern rocker about a girl who tries to find a way out through someone who doesn't really appreciate her, love her, and she gets her heart broken, of course, but learns that she has to trust in herself and find her own way out. I really appreciate the fact that Blues Traveler's second most popular hit is all about how fake and formulaic pop music is becoming. It's pretty clever. You could probably make an entire video just on that one song. It mocks themselves, it mocks the listeners, and in the chorus it admits that the hook's the only reason people keep listening. The hook brings you back. He opens the whole song up with, it doesn't matter what I sing as long as I sing with inflection. You just make it up as you go and get a good hook and you got a pop song. They follow that up with just a strictly instrumental 2-minute guitar opus titled The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I guess shaking off the ugly fakeness of the good that came with that hot song. It kind of marks a cool down point in the album, with it being followed up with the song Just Wait, sort of a understanding message to a loved one, maybe a father talking to a child. I can really see this song, and if they still played Mountains live, being a lot more connective with the band being right there and them putting their emotions right out in front of you. It's still good songs though, just don't have that boom, that punch that a lot of these tracks really hold strong and stick in your brain. They try to translate that jam band to album thing, and it works a lot more than it doesn't here, and that's why I'm highlighting this. Bobby brings back the heavy funk one last time for the closing number, Brother John. It's a play off the French children's song, Frère Jacques, and it was written by John and Bob to wake Bob's brother John out of whatever funk he was in at the time. It's just a fun bop and jam to finish off their fourth. I've mentioned it several times already, but I really have to highlight John Popper's unmatched harmonica playing. For modern music, you just don't see it, and he is the top of the class, with Jimi Hendrix being his key inspiration. That, alongside his soulful timbre, he's led this group through thick and thin over the past 3 decades now. It's really sad that their next project, Straight On Till Morning, would be their last that they would record with their groove master bassist Bobby Sheehan before his death in 1999, which occurred just a week before John released his first solo project. He even cancelled the tour halfway. There was poor sales, as well as just, obviously his mind wasn't there. His health was very poor. He was at the biggest he'd ever been, and unfortunately the wake-up call to save his own life was the death of a good friend of his. Chan's brother Tad actually became the new bassist when the band decided they were going to continue to make Blues Traveler music, and they've released a ton of live and studio albums over the past 20 years. Most recently in 2018 with their album Hurry Up and Hang Around, as well as now re-recorded versions of the hits on this album, Run Around and Hook, and their hit off their debut, But Anyway. I've linked all those down below, all those tracks I've mentioned, any other albums I've brought up down below, and their channel link to check out their latest and greatest. They have one project I can't recommend to you guys. Unfortunately, their 2015 features project just really falls short in my mind. The rest of their albums are generally pretty great jams with a opening hit to get you energized and started. They have varying degrees of rock and blues and folk, and they play around here and there, but they've got their sound. You know a Blues Traveler song when you hear one, and I'm certain I'm missing out a ton with all their fantastic live albums that I wish I'd been in attendance for, but it's something that I'm just aching for all around. Any kind of live show is what I need at this point in my life, and this summer it might just be happening. Holy moly, guys, we're getting some great artists dropping some awesome albums, and there's tours and shows and stuff that is probably gonna happen, and I can't wait to go find a local artist to support and rock out to, and you guys should get out there and do that as well, because I think there's almost no better feeling out there. Like this video, you agree, or you just like Blues Traveler, subscribe for more, watch some more, and then the hug brings you back.